Hello, happy CONjuration Sunday to everybody out there. I'll get to introductions in a minute, but I am Christi J. Whitney, and this is my companion and Hufflebuddy, Erica Clifford, and you are joining the two of us for the panel Slytherins and their Hufflebuddies. Now, we do want to make sure you guys know you do not have to be a Slytherin or a Hufflepuff to be in this panel. We love hearing from all of the houses. And also, of course, we want to make sure that we have the understanding that these four Hogwarts houses don't encompass all of the amazing personality types we have out there. But it is always fun, which I think is one of the reasons the sorting panels are so popular at CONjuration, because we love trying to place all our favorite characters within one of the Hogwarts houses. So thank you guys for joining. I see several of you guys in the comments already. And a thank you to CONjuration, to Chris and Angela for making this happen this year. So let's get started with introductions. I'll start and then I'll send it over to Erica. But as I said, my name is Christi J. Whitney. I am a young adult fantasy author. I'm also a theater director and a high school literature teacher. And I'm a small-time cosplayer. I do a lot of Harry Potter cosplay, especially Professor Snape, on my TikTok. So I said in my panel yesterday, if there are any TikTok people out there in the Harry Potter community, I would love to connect with you guys. My TikTok handle is the same as most of my social media, which is Christi J. Whitney. And we'll talk more about just those connections later. But that is me. I am a CONjuration attender for the last few years with none other than, one of my best friends in the world over here, who, like I said, is my Hufflebuddy. So that is me. And Erica, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Erica Clifford. I am just a huge geek, and I just like going to different conventions and stuff. This is our fourth CONjuration, and so we love it. We love being able to cosplay anything Harry Potter, and just being able to talk Harry Potter with anyone. I've cosplayed as Professor Sprout a couple times, and we've done prisoners. And what did we throw in last year? I can't remember what it was that we threw in last year.
We had Death Eaters. We've done
prisoners. Yeah, the Death Eaters were a lot of fun too. So yeah, just a huge cosplayer and geek. Just all things Harry Potter I love. So I'm just really excited to be on the panel with Christi.
Thank you, Chris, for saying I'm the best Snape. I appreciate that. And thank you, Olivia. And I see a lot of Hufflepuffs in here as well already. You guys are awesome. And that's why we love coming to this convention so much, because it is truly a family kind of atmosphere that you guys have just immediately welcomed us with open arms. And I've been doing panels since my first CONjuration. This is actually Erica's first panel. So we're excited. I'm excited that she's joining me for this one. She's usually out in the audience rooting me on, as a true Hufflepuff loyal friend will always do. But just kind of some ideas of what we're going to do in this panel. Just kind of, we'll talk about the aesthetic of the Slytherin Hufflepuff friendship. We definitely want to hear from you guys. So awesome that you guys are already commenting things over on the side that I see in comments. But there's just a really kind of fun theory that has cropped up over the last few years, that every Slytherin has a Hufflebuddy. And of course, if you can't tell from the vast array of things around me, I am a Slytherin. I'm actually the only Slytherin in my friend group. I'm also the only Slytherin in my family group. But I have, my closest friends are all, I think with the exception of one, are all Hufflepuffs. So this fun theory that somehow there's something about the Slytherins and the Hufflepuffs that just we're kind of drawn to each other. And of course, it doesn't mean that we're not friends with, everyone else from all the other houses, because we definitely are. And I'm married to a Ravenclaw. So, we definitely have all of that going on. But we just really want to talk about what it is about Slytherin and Hufflepuff. So let me kind of start out with just some of those qualities. You guys know that. So as a Slytherin, of course, we value resourcefulness, ambition, determination, cunning. We like to think outside the box. We like to review situations before we jump into them. But we are also extremely loyal. And I think we're going to start with the loyalty. So if you are a Hufflepuff, of course, you probably know that you are known for your loyalty. So Erica, what is it about, do you think, about the loyalty aspect of Hufflepuffs and Slytherins that maybe is sort of connective between the two of us?
Well, we're super protective. We're protective of our people. We're always going to look out for our people. But what I love is having a Slytherin in my back pocket, though, is the fact that sometimes if I'm not willing to stand up for myself, that Slytherin's going to encourage me to. They're going to encourage me and guide me. And if someone's giving me a hard time, my Slytherin's going to be the one that takes care of things for me. So I think that's the best part, is when you have that person that is able to stand up for themselves so easily, it encourages you and it lifts you up as a Hufflepuff. So I mean, I love having someone that is super loyal like me, but is a little more outgoing and has no issues with saying what's on their mind and encouraging me to say what's on my mind.
Yeah, I think that the loyalty is a really interesting thing. And now I'm kind of making sure I'm looking at the comments on the side. Thank you, Abby, for saying that about the trial. I want to make sure I don't ignore you guys. But the loyalty thing is really interesting because we think of Hufflepuffs as being the loyal ones, but actually Slytherins are extremely loyal and value loyalty. But I think and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, but I think that Hufflepuffs tend to extend that loyalty maybe a little freer or a little quicker. Slytherins, I think you sort of have to earn the loyalty of a Slytherin. We tend to play things close to the chest. We're kind of closer in with our emotion. I think a lot of Hufflepuffs put their emotions on their sleeve more. Mm-hmm. So once you've earned that loyalty from a Slytherin, it is, yes, I will come and find whoever is you and take care of that business.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And I think that's the great thing, is that Hufflepuffs are so inviting and welcoming, though. So, I mean, there is no judgment. So when we meet someone that's a Slytherin, we just want to get to know that person. And that's how we're going to try and earn over that and win that loyalty and stuff. That's the easiest way, is there's no judgment. We love people and we want to get to know people.
Absolutely. And I think, I don't know, is it Ryan or Ren, R-Y-N? I want to make sure I pronounce it right, in Slytherin, and says we always want to help people be their better selves, and Hufflepuffs help us to be our better selves. Yeah. I think that that's true. I think Hufflepuffs really do challenge Slytherins, who can kind of sometimes get in their box a little bit and not want to get out. And so I think that dynamic definitely works between Slytherins and Hufflepuffs. I just wanted to read really quick. This was something I found from Susanna Carr. She's an author and she has a blog online, Susanna Carr, but she was talking about the Hufflepuff Slytherin dynamic and said, Hufflepuffs are known for their commitment to hard work, their dedication, their sense of fair play and loyalty. Too often they're written off as the miscellaneous marshmallows. But she says, have you seen a badger in real life? They can be vicious when the situation calls for it. They just prefer not to. And she also talks about that shared sense of loyalty in this relationship, because loyalty is such a cornerstone for both houses. Slytherins have ambition, and they need a partner who's not only willing to stick by them, but one who isn't afraid to roll up their sleeves to get the job done. Mm-hmm. A Hufflepuff values fairness, and they won't take too kindly to being pushed around, even by Slytherins, and they will push back. So I think that is a fun dynamic, because Erica, I'd like for you to speak to this. Sometimes we do think of Hufflepuffs as having that reputation of being a little bit of the pushovers, and a lot of people sometimes negatively view Hufflepuff as being the catch-all house for the ones that don't fit in the others. But what do you see as that actual strength in Hufflepuff as far as friendships go?
Yeah, I mean, your Hufflepuffs are your ones that are always going to be there. It doesn't matter what happens. They're always going to have that open ear. They're always going to want to listen and encourage and be there. And so I think, it's so great about Hufflepuffs like being together, is that we love unconditionally, but we're going to call you out for it too. We're going to call you out if you're being mean about something. We're going to call you out if you're just being catty about something, talking about something. So, Hufflepuffs are going to stand their ground. They're going to stand up for others. They're going to stand up for themselves sometimes. Sometimes you got to be encouraged to stand up for yourself, but they're going to stand up for their friends too, though. That's the best thing about Hufflepuffs, is they're they're there to fight. They're there to stand up for other people. So they're not just a catch-all. They're really strong individuals. And I think with the Slytherin, I mean, you have the Slytherin they're super strong people. They're super ambitious people. And so I think that rubs off on Hufflepuffs too, though, which is good. That makes them even more ambitious and wanting to get out there even more.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Olivia said in the comments that Slytherins are all about that familial loyalty, the family loyalty.
Yeah.
And close friends do count. I definitely think that close friends are like family. And, I definitely consider Erica, we've been friends for many years, and I consider her like a sister as well as a friend. So while Slytherins have that sort of family loyalty, I do believe it extends to those close friendships as well. So I think that's an awesome comment. And then Dan says, Hufflepuff, we trust you until you prove otherwise. And Slytherin, you want trust, you prove yourself. So I think, we come about it from two different areas, but the main goal in that trust is really important to both houses.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going to read, this was something I found on the internet. I love things on the internet. Some interesting comments. And so I want to hear what you think, Erica, and also what you guys in the comments think. But on the internet, and I don't have a source for it other than just someone's name, but it says, I think the fact that within Hogwarts, there's a lot of distaste for Slytherin and Hufflepuff shows some interesting insight into the wizarding community. Hufflepuff represents hard work and fairness, right? But there's the idea that Hufflepuffs are maybe somehow losers or the proverbial nice guys who finish last. On the other hand, Slytherins represent cunning, ambition, and personal drive, but they're seen as cutthroat and generally nasty and mean. Ultimately, Hufflepuff and Slytherin are both rooted in philosophies on self-betterment and achieving success in life in terms of being a better person and being more powerful or wealthy or whatever that may be. The obvious question raised by Hogwarts students' disapproval of both Slytherin and Hufflepuff is this: if it makes you a loser to succeed through hard work and fairness, but a cheat to succeed through cleverness and an attitude of doing whatever it takes to achieve your goals, how is someone in the wizarding world expected to gain power, wealth, status if they aren't already born with it? I thought that this was really interesting because, not saying that people are hating on other houses, but I think sometimes you get the idea of, well, Slytherin, obviously we were set up to be the bad guys from the get-go. She created the bad guy house, so we already have that reputation to deal with. And then Hufflepuffs, again, because they didn't have a whole lot of representation in the books apart from Cedric and later Newt, they got the reputation of just being they're just super nice, but that's all that they really have. So that there's this equal kind of distaste. But I think it poses an interesting question that, okay, Slytherins achieve whatever they do to be successful and better, and Hufflepuffs are hard workers and willing to do whatever it takes to achieve being a better person. And it's interesting that in some realms makes them kind of the outsider houses. What do you think about that?
I think about underdogs, both of them are. I think you want to see your Slytherins. I like to see when you succeed. I love being able to cheer on people and seeing them succeed. And I like that watching the underdogs succeed. And I feel like that is the big thing for Slytherins and Hufflepuffs. It's great when you see a Slytherin doing awesome things and being encouraged about it, because they're not all evil, they're not all mean. They're clever, they're cunning, and that's my favorite thing about a Slytherin is how clever and cunning they are, because the way that a Slytherin approaches things and their mindset is so unique, and I think it's really cool to see. That's my favorite part about it. It's just the way that you think of things and create things in your mind. And that's my favorite thing about a Slytherin is they think outside the box. Mm-hmm. So cool. And Hufflepuffs, they're absolutely the underdog. They're hardworking. And I think that you forget about the hard workers sometimes, but that's the best thing about the hard workers. They sneak in, they're doing that hard work, and then someone's going to notice that hard work. And so that's the best part. They're both underdogs that sneak in and surprise you every time. Mm-hmm. So it's okay that we don't have all the attention, because we end up surprising people.
Yeah, and I think another of those dynamics that link the Slytherins and Hufflepuffs together. Of course, we know that epically, Slytherins and Gryffindors are the opposite side of the same coin and tend to be pitted against each other. And from a Slytherin point of view, and not just in the books, but just me personality type wise. You think of Slytherin sometimes as being the bad guys, but we actually value rules and order. And we absolutely hate it when someone achieves whatever they want by breaking the rules instead of doing what they're supposed to do and working towards it. And, being cunning doesn't mean necessarily you're breaking the rules. Gryffindors get the reputation of being more those rule breakers. So, when you look at all the other houses, Slytherin looking at Hufflepuff, I think they have an appreciation for the fact that they are dedicated and that they are hardworking. So when you put a Slytherin and a Hufflepuff together, they're going to get the job done. And one is not just like leaning back on merit. I'm the good guy, or I'm the naturally popular one, or I'm this, but they both have to kind of work for what they want to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. I mean, they both are super hardworking on that. I think that's how a lot of Hufflepuffs get the respect from Slytherins, is because they see how hardworking they are. They're going to get their hands dirty, and that earns a lot of respect from people.
Yeah, and we've gotten some great comments. Of course, said we need more Hufflepuffs in the world because of the acceptance. That's what we should strive for, which I totally agree. Hufflepuff really is the standard for what the other houses really should be looking towards, and not the catch-all that sometimes they get the reputation of being. Also, Abby says, for Hufflepuff, we're both the throwaways by the average wizard. Puffs aren't good enough, and Slytherins are too good, or have the reputation like they are too good. And I think that's also another really good point. As Dan says, we get a limited, skewed view of Slytherin. A lot of people are not willing to look beneath the surface of the reputation that a Slytherin has. And I think Hufflepuffs are that one house that is truly willing to look beneath the surface, because they're coming at it from an accepting, tolerant point of view anyway, so they kind of get beneath the hard exterior of a Slytherin a lot of times. What do you think about that?
Yeah, like what Ren said, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, but if someone hurts you, Hufflepuff's going to be the one that gives you a blanket and a warm cup of tea, while a Slytherin's going to tell you all the reasons that person is wrong. We're both going to give comfort, but we're going to approach it different ways. But that's the best thing there, is because we're able to peel back these layers, these two dynamic groups, and that's what makes such a great relationship, is understanding and coming at things differently.
Absolutely. And, there's the same. We've got so many things that we value the same. I do believe, again, Slytherins do also value that dedication and hard work, and of course, the loyalty, like we talked about. But then also, we're very, very opposite in a lot of things. So, for Erica and I personally, again, we've been friends. We've known each other for, I don't even know how long, years and years, even before we knew what houses we were in, or anything like that. And I can remember the very first time that we decided we were going to sort on Pottermore. And actually we were sorting because we were going to dress up as Hogwarts students. And we kind of had an idea of who we wanted to be. And I remember taking the Pottermore test and rigging making sure I answered all the questions so that I would intentionally get Ravenclaw. And then it was pointed out to me later that that's a very Slytherin move, to manipulate your situation and circumstances to get what it is you wanted. Yeah. So later on, when I retook, it was Slytherin, and it was way more accurate. But even before we knew what house we were in, those qualities kind of drew us to each other. She, her hard work and her dedication, she's the one person I know, and I tell this to my students all the time when I'm explaining the Hogwarts houses. That one person that if you had a flat on the side of the road at 3 a.m, you could call up and they would be there. That would be Erica for me. And I think that Slytherin, we like to pretend we're independent and we're self-assured and we're very confident. But I think in a lot of Slytherins, it hides a lot of insecurity in us. And so knowing that we've got that Hufflepuff that has our back, there's something very freeing in that with a Slytherin, and that they're not coming at you with a bunch of preconceived notions about what you're about. So, Erica, like I said, has always, even before I knew she was a Hufflepuff, or we knew that was a thing, because we were friends before we got into Harry Potter, I could definitely peg her as a Hufflepuff from a million miles away before she ever took a test.
Yes, that's the same for Christi. That's what's crazy about our friendship, is that before we got into this, we knew our houses, we knew what we were, because Christi's always been that clever person, always been like that mentor and that guidance. Like, I always seek advice and I seek counsel, and I think that's the thing about Slytherins, is they're so wise too, though. Like, even though, I know Ravenclaws, they seek knowledge and stuff, the Slytherins are smart, and they they know their stuff. And so that's what's great too, is having that person that's a mentor as well. And so that's what's great about, I mean, before we even got into our houses and stuff, I mean, this is who we were. This is our dynamic. This is what made it so great.
It's true. And Olivia said she just feels called out about the insecurity line. But I think it's true. And I don't think a lot of people know that about Slytherins unless they are their Hufflebuddy or somebody that they really trust with this information. I think part of the reason I'm married to a Ravenclaw too is that Ravenclaw has a sense of I have safety in that Ravenclaw. Like, they have knowledge about me, but they're not going to outwardly share that knowledge. So it is interesting that all my friends are Hufflepuffs. My husband is a Ravenclaw. But yeah, we are a very kind of insecure. My husband helps that. Like, he's so confident as a Ravenclaw because he's confident in his abilities and his knowledge that's really helped grow me as a person. So, again, like all the houses, we have different aspects about each house that we get along with and we can have friendships with. But yeah, that confident versus insecure thing, which most Hufflepuffs I know are really quite confident. I mean, they might have aspects of their lives that they're insecure about, but they don't mind just being themselves and going out there and just, if they flop, they flop. If they take a risk and it fails, fine. Whereas me as a Slytherin, and I don't know if any other Slytherins out there are like this, but I am so appearance conscious. I think that's a Slytherin thing, and not a ego, like I want to, have my face on Instagram with all the filters, but I very carefully control how other people view me. I like to control how I'm viewed. I like to craft that image and only let people know what I want them to know. And then I have somebody like Erica, and she doesn't care what anybody thinks. And this is me. You take it, you leave it, you like it or you don't. I'm going to love you. If you don't love me back, well, then that's on you. So I think,
yep.
What is that about, Erica? How is it like being that kind of personality?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of been like that's my whole life in a nutshell. Like, I love people. And I think it's a very Hufflepuff thing that you're going to love people. You're going to go out there. I fail all the time. I fail in front of people most of the time, but it's okay though. That's the thing about Hufflepuff, because we're surrounded by other Hufflepuffs that encourage us. But what's great though is that, I mean, other people see it too. And it's almost contagious sometimes that you're like, oh, what's different about that Hufflepuff that she doesn't care. And so it becomes contagious for other people that are in different houses to want to get to know that Hufflepuff, to understand that Hufflepuff. I mean, we don't mind failing. It's okay. We're going to keep doing it until maybe we get it right. And maybe we won't ever get it right, but that's just what we do.
It is so true. And that's, I think, why it's such a valuable, Hufflepuffs are just valuable friends to have for all those reasons. Rin said Hufflepuffs are the ultimate example of not allowing external sources to influence how they feel about themselves. Yeah. And I definitely think that's true. And of course, I'm not saying that every Slytherin has no sense of themselves, or, I have a very strong sense of self, a strong sense of morals and values, but I do like to, as I said, I control that issue. I think Ravenclaws and Slytherins are more control freaks a lot of the times. And while I'm loosey-goosey on a lot of things, definitely how people view me, I like to control. Chris said, with Slytherins, just call AAA to help out a friend. Depends on the friend. Depends on the friend, Chris. I would go help. I would help Erica out, definitely, but I would probably still call AAA because I know that I don't know everything I need to know about the situation. So I would bring in the experts for sure.
Well, and there's a good chance that I'm probably going to fail at changing that tire. So I'll be there for support, but I may not get it right.
Yes, I think that's another good kind of distinction, is how Slytherins and Hufflepuffs support each other in the ways that we show like our support or our care for somebody else. I want to fix things. Like, I want to offer advice and like just knowledge on stuff. But then again, Ravenclaw is my secondary house after Slytherin. So I'm all about the knowledge and the help, but I also think that's the resourceful thing. As a Slytherin, if you've got a problem, I'm trying to figure out the ways to make it better for you or to give you suggestions. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think Hufflepuffs a lot of the times are just, look, I'm here, whatever you need. Yep. And not saying that you don't offer suggestions, you do, but I think sometimes, Hufflepuffs will say, I'm here. Yep. If you need advice, I'll give you advice. But you're not one to necessarily offer your advice, are you?
No, and that's the best thing about, I think, and that's our dynamic too. We can sit in a room and it can be quiet for minutes to hours and there's no discomfort. And I think that's the best thing about like this Slytherin Hufflepuff relationship. But this is also Hufflepuffs. We're your silent friends. We're going to be the ones that are there just to be there, but we will offer advice. We will give a shoulder. We'll bring you cookies. I mean, that's what we do. But I mean, that's what's great though, is I mean, Slytherins and Hufflepuffs, they can be in a room together and it doesn't have to be dominated by anybody. We're just comfortable in each other's presence. And I think that's what's great about this relationship, that I mean, that you would think that one would want to be dominating, but there's not. It's just there's comfort in knowing who you are. And there's something about, with a Hufflepuff, you know that a Hufflepuff isn't there to judge or it isn't there to do anything. They're just there to be there. And that's what's great about like us as Hufflepuffs, is we just want to be there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Olivia says, I'm definitely all about fixing the situation, which is funny. That is one interesting dynamic about a Slytherin and a Ravenclaw, is like, who's going to be the ultimate fixer of all problems? And that's usually the arguments my husband and I get into, because sometimes I don't want that Ravenclaw to fix my problems. I can take care of it myself. But it is nice to have that freedom of a Hufflepuff that just says, you know, I'm here. We don't have to talk. I can just hang out with you, or bring you a coffee like Erica did for me this morning, because we teach a group of 12th grade seniors in the church that we attend. And I just always count on, she's like, hey, I'm getting a coffee. You want one? Or I'm going to bring you a coffee because we need it. And that is, you know, and I try my best. Like, Hufflepuffs help to remind me to reach out that way. Because the way I show support may be different than the way Erica shows support. And it just, the way she shows support reminds me, hey, there's all kinds of ways to show support, even if it's just like bringing someone a cup of coffee. So I think that's why we need more Hufflepuffs in the world, because they remind us there's just so many ways that you just show love and show, you know, support for your friends, especially with caffeine. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, that's the common joke in our friend group, is I'm the mom. I'm the mom in the group. I'm the one, I'm looking out for people. I'm making sure they're good. Throughout the whole quarantine and stuff, Austin, that text message, not asking for anything. I'm just saying, I'm thinking about you. I'm missing you. It's just, we're kind of just that person that checks in. We don't want anything in return. We just want to be there for people. And we just want to let them know that we're thinking about them. There's something about like a selfless love. They just give love, and that's what we do. I mean, as a Hufflepuff. But yeah, I'm the mom, and everyone says thanks, mom, and that's just I'm the Hufflepuff in the group too. So that's what everyone says.
And it's interesting that you bring up the mom thing, which we've talked about this before. And it's funny because in our friend group, the CONbuddies, as we call each other, our group of geeks, that I'm the only one that's actually a mom. A mom in real life. I have two boys, but I'm not the mom in the group. So just like that maternal thing is not something that happens because you have kids. It's like, you know, we all know that person that they just want to be the caregiver, and being a mother does not make you a natural caregiver. And that's not me. We were talking about our Enneagrams because we did, there was a panel last year that we did, which is always fun, like taking your Enneagrams, your Briggs-Myers, and kind of where do they fall within the Hogwarts houses. And, you know, before we ever took it, I was like, she is the caregiver / helper, 100%. And I am 100% that individualist. So, you know, that dynamic, it's just funny how that works. But on the opposite end of that, because we haven't really talked about what could sometimes be, I don't want to say negative, but the flip side of our coins as our personalities, that I think we help balance each other out is, Erica, and I think I'll have you speak to this, but where the opposite side of that coin can be is that you do have a difficult time saying no. You do burn yourself out because you put 100% of yourself into other people. And that's what fuels you, is relationships and other people. So how can that be like, you know, again, I don't like using the word negative, but how can it be something that's not necessarily a good thing in your personality as a Hufflepuff? And how do other friendships help you with that?
Yeah, I mean, I burn myself out. I do. I invest. I pour into people. And it's so easy to get burnt out. But what's great is with our dynamic, though, that you can see that and you'll say, hey, are you taking some time for you? are you taking some time just to relax and everything? So what's great is when you have a Slytherin buddy, or you do have just anyone from a different house, because when you're with a bunch of people that are just like you, you're sometimes not being able to see the whole picture. And so what's great is having someone like you in this relationship that we have, is that when I do get burned out, when I do get tired, it's great to have someone that comes in and says, hey, you might need to take some time to focus on you, because it's not always about the Hufflepuff things to put people first and to do things and be hardworking, but sometimes you have to take time for yourself and think about yourself. And so you encourage that and you remind me of that. And so that's what's great, is when you have different people in different types of character traits and stuff, you can help fuel that person and encourage that person to think about yourself. It's okay to think about yourself too, that you don't always have to put other people first.
Right. And, I think the opposite side of a Slytherin is that we can tend to get inside our own heads too much, which can be a little bit isolating. And because we don't wear our feelings on our sleeves necessarily all the time, we can go down a path for a while before we ever actually say anything about it. And if we don't have someone that kind of calls us out on that, we can kind of, get trapped in our heads. So, I'm naturally an introvert, but I also really need connection with friendship and with other people. But left to my own devices, sometimes I will just go down the introvert path and maybe not say anything about it. So having, someone like Erica, or like, with that Hufflepuff personality that is reaching out, is a good balance for me, because like she said, she'll invest in other people, and I will kind of invest in people, but also things and achievements. Like I'm writing books, I'm teaching, I'm planning for the next lesson, I'm working on my podcast, I'm filming TikTok videos, I'm do, and then I can kind of cover up where I'm lacking or where I'm feeling kind of lonely or empty. I cover it up with stuff like that, because if I feel like I'm constantly doing stuff, I'm achieving and I am accomplishing my goals, and it looks like I'm doing great on the outside. So Hufflepuffs have a great way of kind of seeing past all the busyness, I think, that Slytherins get into.
Yeah, it's funny the way that because we look at achievement differently, and that's what's great too, is that we can see achievement differently and we can encourage achievement differently. I think Ren, she said on here, Hufflepuffs rely on Slytherins to keep them from accidentally damaging themselves to help other people. It's so true. This is what we do. And so, but likewise, Hufflepuffs can encourage a Slytherin when they do become so focused on those achievements that, hey, those things, those like worldly things that you're focusing on, sometimes it's not the most important. Sometimes relationships are important too. Mm-hmm. So it's a good dynamic duo when you have a Slytherin and a Hufflepuff, that you have someone that's so focused on achievements, that you have someone that's so focused on hard work and people, that together you create something really awesome. And there's just a really good encouragement. They're great business partners. Yeah. Like that's what's great is, because they see two different things. And so that's what's great about Hufflepuff and a Slytherin, is the way that you can see different things and bring something together.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's such it seems like it doesn't want to work, but it works so well in so many dynamics. And I really do think, as we talked about, and somebody said at the beginning, there is something sort of outsider about both of these houses that just is kind of drawn. And while you would think, oh, a Slytherin is going to just be all dominating over, the Hufflepuff, actually, it's kind of the other end of things. I think a lot of times Slytherins take their cues from the Hufflepuffs. I read, I don't know, there's all kinds. You guys have probably seen them on the internet, but like the Hogwarts aesthetics, where you have two houses talking to each other. And there was one where Slytherin was saying, I've got these plans for evil world domination and all this. And the Hufflepuff says, but you sleep with a stuffed giraffe. It's that constant kind of being called out on things that, well, it doesn't push a Slytherin away, but it actually is very refreshing for a Slytherin, because I think they're very used to people kind of prejudging them in that regards.
What Olivia said, Christi, this feels like a call out session, because I 100% agree with everything you said about being a Slytherin. I definitely find myself focusing on achievements and not being honest about my emotions and relationships. That's what's great though, is because when you have that Hufflebuddy, or even, any house, it doesn't matter. When you have that other counterpart that's dynamic and unique and can call you out and stuff, that's what's great though, is just having those other people. I think a Hufflebuddy is always great to have, because they're your encouragers and supporters and stuff. But just anytime that you have different houses, I think Olivia also said about like your friend group is evenly balanced among the houses. but you're the only one they go to. They need a solution, but if they want comfort, they know they can go to the Ravenclaw or Hufflepuff. That's what's great though, is when you have every house in a friend group, there's different things that you can go to people, but then you rub off on those other people too, which is so awesome that you can be so strongly rooted in your core, but then you can start to grow as individuals because of these other people in houses.
Yeah, again, it's just a fantastic dynamic between these 4 houses in general. And of course, we know they don't represent all of these personality types that we do, but it's a good starting point. I always tell that to my students because I sort my students at the beginning of every school year. It's not 100% supposed to define you, but it's a great starting place to just kind of see where different people are coming from and see why certain, relationships seem to work better. And, again, as I said, that Hufflepuff really helps. It's like iron sharpens iron because we're so opposite in so many ways. It reminds you of areas maybe you need to work on. And, there was, I think I saw it on the internet, like during this whole pandemic, it was make sure you check on your Hufflepuff buddies because they're not okay. And, whereas I think a lot more Slytherins are like, this is what I've been waiting for, alone, introverted time with my own plans of world domination. But, just to reach out and check because they put so much investment in people and relationships all the time. And when you're not able to do that, there's something lacking. So just that constant reaching out to my Hufflebuddies is something, it's not that I don't do that naturally because I hope that friends would say I am caring and I do, try to go above and beyond as a friend, but it's that Hufflepuff touchy-feely is not my first instinct how to reach out, like Hufflepuffs and free hugs and that. And I'm the one going, I don't know. So the 6 feet social distance, I'm like, I've been doing that my whole life. What are you talking about? I've got a huge bubble. But the Hufflepuffs, they're not okay with this.
Yeah, it's been unique. It's been different to try and figure out ways to foster these relationships still. But hey, we make it work. That's what's great. It's Hufflepuffs, they adapt really well, and so we've adapted to this new way of showing our Hufflepuff love.
Oh, yeah. And Abby says that they sort everyone at their job, too. It's fun. Whatever the personalities are, when I was a beginning teacher, there was the colors personality, and it was 4 basic personalities, which was really the Hogwarts houses in disguise. And, the idea that we do have a predominant house, but usually there's a secondary one in there or something that's also sort of tugging. The interesting thing is, if I sort, and I don't know if you've done that, Erica, but my very last house is Gryffindor, obviously, but 3rd is Hufflepuff. So it is funny just really how way opposite we are in personality.
Yeah, my second one's Gryffindor. So we are complete opposites, but that's what works. I like the thing about talking about at work too, because when I came into my job a couple years ago, I obviously brought all my geek stuff and everything, but it's great because sometimes my Slytherin friend has rubbed off on me and I'll say very Slytherin-like things at work and they'll be like, that's not very Hufflepuff of you, Eric. But that's okay though. Sometimes we need someone to encourage us to stand up for ourselves. And so, but it's, I love that people do that at work too. I think it's great.
Yeah, if you back a Hufflepuff into a corner, they are amazingly Slytherin-like. I do believe you can be quite brazen and sarcastic and quite the snarky wit when you want to be. So don't think Hufflepuffs are nice all the time. No, that might be their default. But
yeah.
So, we're kind of, let's see, I wanted to check on some of these other comments in our last couple of minutes before we start wrapping things up. But yeah, you should always check on your Hufflebuddy. Slytherins need to be reminded of that because we get into our introvert world. I think Ravenclaws can also get into that world as well. And I do, Hannah, I definitely think everyone needs a Hufflebuddy, not just Slytherin, because they are the house that you kind of strive to be, but also recognize that every house has those weaknesses and the good and the negative, and that we need to kind of try to build each other up in all of our houses. Anna says, we were talking about earlier this weekend how Slytherins and Gryffindors tend to sort each other last. I'm a Gryffindor and my last house is always Slytherin. Yeah, we are, 2 sides of the same coin. So I think Gryffindors and Slytherins are actually a lot alike in a lot of different ways, but then also can't even get into the heads of each other. I've got one son that is a Gryffindor and I can't get into his head. I don't even pretend to. I can't even understand where he's coming from, but I know that that's also something I need to work on. So being able to realize where you're not compatible gives you things to work on. You always strive to be more like Hufflepuffs. Absolutely. I think Hufflepuffs are the best house. And I really was appreciative that Newt Scamander gave Hufflepuffs another breath of life in Fantastic Beasts. And if you guys have seen that, we got a Hufflepuff Slytherin friendship with Letitia Lestrange and Newt Scamander in the second movie. So I think it's really neat thing to explore. So do you have any kind of last things, Erica, to add, or I want to make sure we've caught comment?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Chris said it earlier too. I mean, we need more Hufflepuffs in the world. We need more people like that. And I think that's just the best thing is, I mean, you look for your Hufflebuddy, find that Hufflebuddy, because guess what? We want to be friends with everyone. So if you find a Hufflepuff, you just talk to them. They're going to be your best friend. So that's the best part is it's easy to find a Hufflebuddy.
Yeah, and you don't lose them once you have their loyalty. They're there, and goes for Slytherin. Once you have kind of earned your way in, and I know that sounds very pretentious to say, but it's only because I think Slytherins are a lot more protective. But once you've earned your way in, I mean, that is a lasting loyalty. So all those like fun little dynamics and memes that we see are really, really quite true between snacks and protecting you from world domination. Again, Erica, this is her first panel, and I'm so excited that she's joined me. If you are interested in anything that I do, of course, I have a website, ChristiJWhitney.com, which are a lot of things about my book series. And again, I do a lot of cosplay. Professor Snape is sort of my alter ego at the moment. So you can follow me on TikTok at Christi J. Whitney. Also, I have Instagram, Christi J. Whitney. And then I also have a Professor Snape, Christi J. Whitney. So a lot of Snape going on there. If people want to connect with you, Erica, where do they need to go?
You can find me on Instagram as ebab86 or on Facebook as Erica Clifford. But yeah, find me. I think I told Christi this earlier. Someone found me yesterday. I think Christi brought me up and they found me on Facebook and commented. So I love that. So thank you guys so much for having me on my first panel ever. So I look forward to hopefully doing another one. Thanks, Olivia. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, you guys are so sweet. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your con, and we will talk to you guys later.
Yeah, thanks, you guys.
Bye.